Welcome to my video. In simple terms, astrotheology is the study of how celestial cycles such as those of the sun, moon, and planets are encoded into religious traditions, ancient myths, and sacred texts. It can be described by terms such as syncretism, comparative religion, ritual studies, and esoteric symbolism. In this video, I am going to give a few basic examples of astrotheology and how it connects everything together or syncretizes it. So to start with, we have a circle divided into 12 different sections. And we have the zodiac signs, starting with Aries and ending with Pisces. And unlike astrology, where the signs go around this way, counterclockwise, in astrotheology they go clockwise. At least it's easier to explain astrotheology that way. So, we have the yearly cycle, and we also have the daily cycle. Pretend you're looking to the south, your face to the south, looking toward the south. We have midday, sunset, or the western horizon, midnight, or the midnight. We have sunrise or the eastern horizon. So we have the horizon right here. That's the daily cycle. For the yearly cycle, we have the summer solstice. We have the fall equinox. We have the winter solstice, and we have the spring equinox. And we have summer, fall, winter, and spring as the seasons. And also, right here is the Tropic of Cancer. So the most northerly direct sun rays is the Tropic of Cancer. Why is it called the Tropic of Cancer? Because because the summer solstice is where the sign Cancer begins. And down here we have the most southerly direct sun rays. Why is it called the Tropic of Capricorn? This is in December. Tropic of Capricorn, because the sign Capricorn begins here. And here we have the equator, because the direct sun rays are right on the equator. So, one thing that I need to mention, this is the tropical zodiac. It lines up with the solstices and the equinoxes. The spring equinox is always where Aries starts, and Aries starts the zodiac. It always starts at the spring equinox with the tropical zodiac. So, if you look at the sky, the physical locations of the constellations is called the sidereal zodiac. When all of this was put together, the two zodiacs were in sync with one another. But now, because of precession of the equinoxes, they are around 30 degrees apart. So what you see in the sky does not line up directly with the tropical zodiac anymore. But for what we're doing here, we need the tropical zodiac. So before I get into the ancient texts, I need to mention that religious and sacred texts are often encoded with multiple levels or layers of meaning and interpretation. That does not mean that the literal story is false. So, I was reading a Mesopotamian story here recently, an ancient Mesopotamian story. Inanna's descent into the underworld. So, she is in the heavens. She gives up all of her offices and positions. She crosses into the underworld. She dies. Then she's brought back to life by Enki, who is one of the Mesopotamian deities, Enki, Enlil, and so on. So after Enki brings her back to life, she comes back up, she exits the underworld, and she has to give a sacrifice in order to leave the underworld. It just so happens she gives her husband up as a sacrifice, poor guy. But anyway, you'll find how stories like that will fit onto this right here. You'll find stories everywhere like that, in ancient texts, sacred texts. Even in Christianity, Jesus is acting as the Son. And before I go any further, just because Jesus is acting as the Son at this level of meaning does not mean that Jesus was not real. Jesus can be just as real as you and me and still be serving other functions in these texts at different levels of interpretation. So with Jesus, he's born on December 25th. Then he is an infant for a while and he grows up. We have the baptism symbology with Aquarius. In astrology, it's an air sign, but in astrotheology, it's water. And it's the man with the water pitcher. We have Pisces, which is also a water sign. Pisces the fish. So Jesus gets baptized when he gets to the spring equinox, and keep in mind this is Jesus acting as the Son at this level of meaning. So once Jesus gets to the equinox, he emerges from the waters. The Spirit descends on him like a dove. The voice, "This is my Son in whom I am well pleased." Aries is known for beginnings and starting things. It even starts the Zodiac. So Jesus' ministry begins after that. And then we get into Taurus. We have agricultural symbology, mentions of taking loaves of bread and dividing them. I forget the exact language, but taking loaves of bread and making more bread. Agricultural symbology, but could also will also take into account Gemini. Gemini, to the ancient peoples, Gemini would have meant doubling of heat because the sun is getting hotter. We're getting close to the solstice, so the heat doubles. Gemini, the twins. Also with Jesus, it could mean teaching, speaking in parables. So we cross the solstice, sun's doing good, it's nice, hot, powerful. Get into Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. Well, I tried to make that look like something decent. But anyway, that's the glyph of the moon. Cancer is going to represent more of motherly figures, possibly Mary Magdalene. Also, to the ancients, Cancer was the crab. It is Cancer the crab. To the ancients, they noticed that after the solstice, the sun started going backwards. Well, so does the crab. It crawls backwards. We get to Leo, and the sun rules in Leo. There's the glyph for the sun. So Jesus is at his full power here, the transfiguration. Bright light, his full self. This is when heat is the most intense, the dog days of summer. We have rulership type symbology in Leo. So we go on to Virgo. With Virgo, we have it's known as harvest to ancient peoples. It's like the harvest time of year. Kind of makes me think of the bread and the wine and the Last Supper. Then we cross the fall equinox. We go into Libra. And at this time, the scales are tipping towards the darker time of year, away from the lighter time of year. So the power of Jesus begins to wane, or the sun. We get here, and Jesus is betrayed by Judas. This is Scorpio, the scorpion. And I've heard that there is a certain type of scorpion that whenever it stings, it gives a kiss of death. It's known as the kiss of death because it leaves a mark where it stings that looks like a pair of lips. So Judas kisses Jesus to identify him, or a kiss of death. And we're right in the middle of fall here, so you can see how this is reflecting in nature. We get to Sagittarius, the archer. That's an arrow. Its glyph is. And Jesus dies, the sun dies, at the winter solstice. And here in December. So we have an arrow here, the archer, but think of a spear in the side of Jesus to make sure that he's dead. Now he is dead for 3 days before he gets resurrected again. Comes back to life on December 25th, Christmas time. Of course, we're also right around the time of Roman Saturnalia and all of that, because This is the beginning of the reign of Saturn. It's the best I can draw it. So Saturn rules in these two signs. Saturn is known for being cold. It is wintertime. So anyway, Jesus dies. 3 days later, he's resurrected, brought back to life by the Father. And the cycle repeats and just continues and continues. Now, I also need to mention Inanna again. She dies, is placed on a hook. Jesus dies and is placed on a cross or a tree. But notice the cardinal points here: summer solstice, winter solstice, spring equinox, fall equinox. Notice that the lines that go to these points, these cardinal points, makes a cross. So Jesus is placed on a cross or a tree. He's brought back to life by the Father. Inanna is brought back to life by Enki. And cycle continues. So you can see the parallels here. This solar cycle is not only in the Christian texts, it's in other ancient texts too. Ancient and sacred texts. So anyway, just to recap, this does not mean that Christianity is false. It does not mean that any religion or tradition is false. It just means that there is multiple layers of meaning. That's all. That's what this means. And that there are certain structures that are interwoven into all of the sacred texts and religious texts, regardless of the culture. So one more thing I want to cover before I end this video. I'm not going to go into it in detail. I'm just going to mention the connections, and that is the numbers 7 and 12. So with the numbers 7 and 12, the number 7, you see it all throughout the Christian Bible and other texts as well, other ancient texts. We have the 7 visible planets. Here's 3 of them: Sun, Moon, and Saturn. But we have like Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The 7 visible planets that were known to the ancients, or the 7 visible planets in astrology. So we have the 7 visible planets, the 7 governors of the Corpus Hermeticum, the 7 days of the week, the 7 spirits of God in Revelations, 7 seals in Revelations. The Inanna story, she takes 7 divine powers with her to enter the underworld. And she also has to give up 7 objects to enter the underworld, as like a sacrifice or a purification. Atrahasis is another Mesopotamian text that uses the number 7. If we go on to the number 12, we have 12 signs of the Zodiac, as you can see here. We have 12 tribes of Israel. We have 12 apostles. We have 12 gates of New Jerusalem letting down out of heaven in Revelations. We have 12 months of the year. We have 12 hours around the clock, or one cycle of the clock. So think of this circle right here being 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you can go on and on and on. How Christianity and the Christian texts, other texts, doesn't matter where, all around the world, they have these structures encoded in them. And again, that doesn't mean that they're not real at the literal level. It just means that there's multiple layers and levels you have to understand and look at. So, anyway, what this does, knowing this, it shows how everything is connected, everything is intertwined, and nothing is disconnected from anything else. So, I'm going to end it here. Just remember, think in layers and not absolute meanings, or flat absolute meanings. Just remember, think and read in multiple layers of meaning. So, feel free to leave any comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. And thanks for watching.